the Supreme Court has now moved to tackle the menace of stray animals and their bites within its premises. Just a day after issuing fresh guidelines on stray dogs, the top court has now banned disposal of leftover food in open. A circular issued today makes it mandatory for all food waste to be thrown only in properly covered dustbins. Supreme Court warned that under no circumstances should leftover food be left in open spaces or uncovered containers. The directive aims to prevent animals from being attracted to food waste, thereby reducing the chances of stray dogs or other animals wandering into the premises and to avoid the risk of bites. The court has ordered that the measure will also help maintain hygiene standards and has urged everyone on its premises to cooperate for the safety of all. And meanwhile, FIR has now been lodged against people who were protesting at the India Gate in Delhi to protest against the Supreme Court order on stray dogs. Now, following the order, animal rights activists, lovers gathered at India Gate in large numbers, in fact, to protest against Supreme Court. However, their protest was stopped midway by police personnel. Supreme Court there sending out fresh directive to tackle the menace of stray animals within its own premises, issuing guidelines on disposal of leftover food, suggesting that all food leftover should in fact be thrown only in properly covered dustbin. It warns that under no circumstance should leftover food be left in open spaces or in uncovered containers. The directive, the court says, aims to prevent animals from being attracted to food waste in its premises and thereby also reduce the chances of stray dogs wandering into the Supreme Court premises or risking bites of animals. Now, this comes barely a day after the uproar over Supreme Court's verdict on relocation of all 10 lakh stray dogs in Delhi NCR.
आवारा कुत्तों की परेशानी को लेकर सोमवार को सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक सुप्रीम आदेश दिया और कहा कि हमें सड़कों को इस तरह से सुरक्षित बनाना है कि वहां पर बुजुर्ग और बच्चे बिना कुत्तों के भय के जी सके और इसकी जिम्मेदारी आती है एमसीडी के ऊपर। तो महापौर साहब इकबाल साहब हमारे साथ हैं। सर, ये बताइए कि कितना आपके अनुमान से दिल्ली के अंदर अगर हम बात करें आवारा कुत्ते हैं, 10 लाख का आंकड़ा बताया जाता है।
देखो, सबसे पहले मैं माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो ऑर्डर आया है उसका स्वागत करता हूँ। सुप्रीम कोर्ट को मैं धन्यवाद करता हूँ, बहुत बहुत साधुवाद, बधाई देता हूँ कि जब हम ऑर्डर सुन रहे थे, ऑर्डर पढ़ रहे थे, तो हमें एक इम्प्रेशन आ रहा था कि दिल्ली की जो जनता की जो आवाज़ है वो कोर्ट ने सुनी है और उसको अपने ऑर्डर में लिखा है। तो इसलिए मैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट को आपके माध्यम से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूँ कि जो इस ऑर्डर से दिल्ली की जनता को बहुत बड़ी राहत मिलेगी।
सर, राहत मिलेगी, लेकिन अभी इसको आप क्रियान्वयन कैसे करेंगे? जो अभी शुरुआत में 8 हफ्ते की बात की गई है, इसको लेके आपका रोड मैप क्या है?
देखो, ये सारा काम फेज़ वाइज होगा। फर्स्ट फेज़ में हम ये कोशिश करेंगे कि वो कुत्ते जो बीमार कुत्ते हैं, जो डिजीज़ हैं, जिनको रेबीज़ की प्रॉब्लम है, जो काटते हैं, तो पहले फेज़ में हम उनको उठाएंगे। उसके बाद जो नॉर्मल डॉग्स हैं उन पे हम काम करेंगे और कोशिश करेंगे कि काम हम अपने समय पे पूरा करें।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्ट्रे डॉग्स को कहा है कि उनको शेल्टर में पहुंचाया जाए। इस पर बातचीत करेंगे। हमारे साथ लोग हैं गाज़ियाबाद की तमाम सोसाइटीज़ में जो लोग रहते हैं, क्योंकि दिल्ली एनसीआर के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ये आदेश आया है। तो क्या कहते हैं लोग? हमने दिल्ली के लोगों से बात की, उसके बाद गाज़ियाबाद से भी बात करते हैं कि जो सोसाइटी में जो लोग रहते हैं, आप लोग यहाँ रहते हैं, बहुत सारी यहाँ पर समस्याएं होती हैं कुत्तों को लेकर, खासतौर पे स्ट्रे डॉग्स जो हैं उसको लेकर लोग बहुत परेशान।
हाँ मैडम, यहाँ पे बहुत सारे कुत्ते जैसे आते हैं, किसी को काट देते हैं हैं, बच्चों को काट देते हैं, बच्चों को भागते हैं, उसमें बहुत परेशानी होती है। कुछ लोग क्या करते हैं, वहाँ पे खाना दे दिया, वहाँ पे खाना दे दिया, फिर उनको आदत पड़ जाती है। फिर आदत पड़ने के बाद क्या होता है, वो वहीं पे आते हैं और वो छोटे बच्चे आते हैं, उनको काट जाते हैं। तो वो गलत है, उनको पकड़ना चाहिए और उनको या तो उनके लिए प्रॉपर जगह बनाई जाए, वहाँ पे उनको शिफ्ट किया जाए। तो ऐसे घूमते रहते हैं तो वो बहुत नुकसानदेह है। बहुत हमारे तो सोसाइटी में ऊपर तक पहुँच जाते हैं कुत्ते, सारी गंदगी फैला देते हैं, बच्चों को काट देते हैं। तो इसलिए ये तो बेकार है। ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर बिल्कुल सही है,
अच्छा, आपको लगता है कि सही ऑर्डर है?
बिल्कुल सही ऑर्डर है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का।
और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये भी बोला है कि जो लोग भी उसमें बाधा पहुंचाएगा, जो भी उसको उनको शेल्टर तक पहुंचाने में या यहाँ से हटाने में, तो उस पर भी अवमानना मानी जाए।
हाँ, बिल्कुल सही है, बिल्कुल। अगर आपको डॉग को पालना है, अपने घर में पालिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, उसको इंजेक्शन लगाइए, उसको प्रॉपर तरीके से अपने घर में रखिए, तो ठीक है। लेकिन जो आवारा कुत्ते हैं, वो काट रहे हैं बच्चों को, तो वो तो नुकसान तो है ही ना। हम अपने बच्चों को बचा सकते हैं, कोई किसी के बच्चे आ रहे हैं, छोटे बच्चे आ रहे हैं, उनको काट दे रहे हैं, तो फिर उनका क्या है? उनका इलाज वो तो करवाते नहीं है। जो लोग कुत्तों को खिला रहे हैं खाना-वाना, तो वो उनको इलाज तो कराते नहीं, फिर उसके बाद गायब हो जाते हैं वो लोग। लेकिन सिर्फ उस टाइम आते हैं जिस टाइम पे कुत्तों के बारे में कोई पकड़ने आता है, कोई कुछ आता है, तो वो बचाने आ जाते हैं उनको। बाकी बाद में कोई नहीं आता है।
The Supreme Court of India has taken a suo motu cognizance of the rising dog bite cases in Delhi NCR, and they have asked them to relocate all the dogs to the shelters outside of Delhi. To talk on this matter, I have with me the Vice President of Fendicos. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. Ma'am, can you tell us how many kinds of dogs or the animals are here at your shelter, and how do you take care of them?
We have not just dogs. We look after large and small animals, and we have a total of about 3,000 animals in our care between our lifetime care sanctuary and this, our Delhi shelter and hospital. So the infrastructure that is required to take care of just 3,000 animals is so enormous, and the staffing that is required, the food, the maintenance, and all those other expenses, that I cannot understand this judgment, this order that has been passed at so many levels. It is going to be difficult to implement, in fact almost impossible to implement. There are thousands of dogs in Delhi, let alone Delhi NCR, and to expect to round them all up and put them into shelters requires such huge infrastructure and such an enormous budget that I do not know how it is going to be possible to execute. But given that, it is not, in my humble opinion, the best decision possible, because there are already this is an extremely difficult situation, because the dogs will be traumatized, they will be fearful, and mortality is going to be very high if this is actually executed. There is already what we feel a very humane, scientific, and compassionate solution for the street dog problem, which is the ABC rules.
So, the unanimous opinion coming in there from all the animal activists that we've spoken to so far is that there are better guidelines out there, including the ABC rules. And if the Supreme Court guidance is to be implemented, it will result in more mortality. It's going to be a difficult task ahead for the Delhi government to implement. Joining us on the show is Aniruddha Ravindra. He's an animal activist and co-founder of Prana Animal Foundation. Aniruddha, in your own words, how difficult is it going to be? Because so far we are looking at an estimated 10 lakh dogs in Delhi NCR alone, and there are not enough shelters. Is 8 weeks, in your assessment, enough time to build those shelters?
Definitely, it is going to be very difficult to build such massive structures, because 10 lakh dogs, I don't know if Delhi has that kind of land in the beginning. Maybe around 1,000 acres of land is required. And does people are ready to give up so much of place and land for these stray dogs? Again, it is going to be an issue, and the amount of money we are going to spend in building such huge structures is going to be enormous. And I don't think that 8 weeks of time is going to do anything. We are going to circle back to the same thing, where a stray dog issue is going to be there, because it is not a sustainable judgment which has been passed by the Honorable Supreme Court.
Just to
Moving
clarify,
on, very
Aniruddha,
difficult.
just to clarify, I think every animal right activist, every animal lover wants for these animals to be provided. So that's out of question. All they are saying is that they should be given a proper home, they should be given a proper shelter which can accommodate these animals, and no policy should be implemented in a hasty manner which will result in more dog suffering.
See, putting all these dogs in one shelter, definitely that is going to be a disease hub, not just for the dogs. Now, I'm not talking about canine distemper. It might result in many other things. For example, lot of other diseases which can spread to humans can also occur from that hub. If we go back to 2020 when COVID happened, that is all because of a place in China, Wuhan, where a lot of that was a market, animal market. So it is going to be like a same kind of situation we are going to come into maybe after like 2 years, 2.5 years if we implement this. But implementing this, I don't think that is practically possible at all. People are celebrating it, but they don't understand the negative side of it. You know, lot of rodents will increase, and there are 35 known diseases which are which pass from human to from the rat and mice to humans. So there will be another situation where we'll have hantavirus, lepto, or plague. That can also occur. So the natural way of controlling these rodents and this whole thing, the natural population control, it is going to be very difficult for Delhi to do that. And I don't think we have such kind of budget also.
Aniruddha, one of the understanding of the court as well as of the people in general at large is that many of these stray animals end up biting people, elderly, and people cannot move about in their own societies, in their own localities without fear of stray animals. But if you look at the data, while the dog bite cases have been on an upward rise, the number of people who've got rabies or who have reported rabies in 2024 alone is about 60 people. So while we understand the fear of stray animal, it is but unscientific to ensure that in 8 weeks' time, all the strays will be cleared off the Delhi roads.
Definitely, it is not at all possible. See, ABC has been happening since 2008, from even in Delhi, I believe. So, if they had implemented all these things properly today, we would have probably 30% of the population what we had in 2008. And 2016 was when the survey was done in Delhi, and there is definitely increase in the population of the dog rather than the decrease, because that is because of the administrative authority which is there. It is not able to do that. They are incapable of doing it. That is why we have increase in dog bite cases. The simple solution what this municipality does is, they pick up dogs from one area and relocate it to another area. So when that relocated dog, what happens is it is afraid, it is alone, it is hungry. So that is when this dog bite happens. People aren't understanding the science behind the whole relocation point, because we aren't aware of it. If it was taught in school, maybe animal awareness program like what we have the adult education, what we have in our school education, we should introduce animal welfare. That is when people will understand how to balance the nature.
Aniruddha, would it be fair to say, therefore, this is basically the failure of the ABC, the animal birth control rules, as well as the immunization program? Because if that would have happened, we wouldn't have arrived at where we are today.
It is not the failure of ABC rules, it is the implementation. The failure of the implementation, the failure of the administrative authority, the governing authority. We don't have a centralized ABC plan. Each and every state, each and every town has a different ABC rules which they want to follow. If we have a centralized ABC plan, I don't think this is going to, the dog menace wouldn't have, the word wouldn't have come itself. So that is how it is supposed to be, but we don't have a centralized plan. Europe has a centralized plan. Bhutan had a centralized plan. Sri Lanka had a centralized plan. But they implemented it. They made sure that they wanted to, connect and get the stray dog menace done. But in India, it is quite difficult to.
So no centralized ABC, no centralized ABC rules, and at the same time, implementation of ABC and failure to implement ABC properly is leading to the menace that we are seeing unfolding on our streets. But I have to ask you, at this point, we are given to understand there are at least 20 animal birth control centers. If they were to be used to temporarily house some of these stray animals, do you believe, in your assessment, they can hold about 10 lakh dogs?
Not at all possible. See, that is what that it is a whole. It's a joke for me. 10 lakh dogs in 20 center. Those ABC center can't even hold 100 dogs. We are talking about 10 lakhs dogs. So the Supreme Court order, I don't know what they went through. What was the research done, and it was purely based on emotions. So suo motu case was taken. No research was done. No evidences were given. And the honorable judge quoting movie quotes, it is pure out of emotion. I think they have to reconsider the whole judgment and make it where it is practically possible. Get the ABC done. I think they have to do the implementation. They should fine the administrative authority and they should make them accountable. That is when probably in 2 years we will have the population will decrease, rather than doing such foolish plans. What I call it as a foolish one, because it is not going to be possible. That is the reason. So they have to implement ABC in a much better way, make it very make sure that it is done and hold accountable. That is when we will have a sustainable dog population reduction.
All right. So would it therefore be said that the state does not have the space, the manpower, or the budget to feed these many dogs? And essentially what the order will do is leave dogs to a dying fate. They will not be catered to. They will be, all put together in a crammed up space. And essentially we're looking at mass death.
Mass death, and we'll probably have another, epidemic, pandemic, all this kind of situation will be there.
It's a very unfortunate story that we're reporting this evening by the way of Supreme Court order. If the authorities were listening to you today, what would you tell them?
Please reconsider. I think we have to work on the scientific based evidence rather than all these kinds of, you can't just, we can't say things out of emotions. And we are talking from a animal rights perspective as well as human perspective, that ABC is the most sustainable method, and the government and the Supreme Court should consider the scientific approach rather than the emotional approach. I understand the tragic death of kids or elderly person which has happened, but this is not going to stop. We'll have another mass epidemic if we are going to put it in one location or one pound or one shelter, which is impossible, and this is going to be another scam. Because we can't have 10 lakhs dog. We don't have that kind of infrastructure. We don't have that kind of money. And it is impossible to implement all these things.
All right.
So that is my request.
Difficult to implement, unscientific, inhumane. That's how activists are summing up the Supreme Court order. Thank you very much for taking time out. Aniruddha, thank you for joining us on the show today. We will, of course, continue tracking the implementation of the said order in 8 weeks' time. 8 weeks, remember, is the timeline that Supreme Court has provided to the state government. Listen into some more voices that have come in as far as that order is concerned.
हम आज के अपने देश को ऑलरेडी एक बहुत पोलराइज सोसाइटी मानते हैं. हर चीज पे लोगों में विभाजन हो जाता है. ये जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर आया है, इससे हमारे देश में दरारें बढ़ी हैं और बहुत सारे लोग, चूंकि हमारी सभ्यता अहिंसा और कंपैशन, करुणा, दया को हमेशा से बहुत अहम मानती थी, हमारे देश के ज्यादातर लोग या तो खुद अच्छा महसूस करते हैं कुत्तों को या गायों को या कबूतरों को किसी को खाना खिला के, या एटलीस्ट उनको इससे तकलीफ नहीं है. लेकिन जो ये ऑर्डर आया है, इसमें जो 10 लाख कुत्तों को ऐसे चुटकियों में हटा देने की बात कही गई है, ये लोगों के लिए बहुत ही डिस्ट्रेसिंग है. और हालांकि मैं समझती हूँ कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि अगर कोई व्यवधान उत्पन्न करेगा इसमें तो उनको कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट माना जाएगा. लेकिन ये तो एक पीपल्स मूवमेंट जैसा शेप लेता हुआ कल हमें शाम को दिखाई पड़ा. बहुत अनफॉर्चुनेट है कि ऐसा ऑर्डर जो इम्प्लीमेंट हो ही नहीं सकता, लाखों कुत्तों को किसी भी जगह रखने की कोई जगह ही नहीं है. दिल्ली में 10 एनिमल बर्थ कंट्रोल सेंटर्स हैं जो एमसीडी चलाती है, उनकी सबकी मिला के पूरी कैपेसिटी है 1000 कुत्तों की. 10 लाख कुत्ते कहाँ जाएंगे?